Hey, so I wanted to check back in with Meta. Ticker symbols on the screen, META. Last time we looked at them, they were trading at 264. This was back on June 10th. They're currently trading at about 294, 296, somewhere in that range. So, what I'd like to do is just go over the news, what's been going on with Meta over that past month and a half, and just kind of understand a little bit what's causing the price to do what it's currently doing, going up of about 30 bucks. And then we'll just see if our buy points, resistance points have changed at all during the technical analysis. But before we get to there, let's go over the news, see what's been going on. So right now, Meta Platforms is reportedly wrapping up spring layoffs. It's the deepest in tech, that being Meta. The third round of layoffs, originally the first one was 11,000, the second one was 4,000, and now apparently they're going after like non-engineering type positions. Uh, so I guess on the one hand, they're gonna potentially save costs in terms of like payroll, uh, but maybe it'll lead to decline in research and development. But we'll see how it plays. Next, we have Facebook is looking to sell Jiffy to Shutterstock at a $262 million loss. So Facebook at one time bought Jiffy. They thought that was going to be, a nice website with all the GIFs, but uh, it clearly just not panning out the way they thought it would, and therefore they're gonna try to sell it. It looks like to Shutterstock, and I believe the deal's gone through. It's just we're gonna see a loss here on the financial statements. Uh, Next we have Instagram is reportedly prepping a Twitter rival. This app is looking to be more words focused, where Instagram's pictures, this one's called Threads. It's going to be more word focused, which is similar to what Twitter is. So, that seems to be the competition, I suppose. Next, we have Meta was hit with a $1.3 billion fine by the EU over data privacy. So that's rough. 1.3 billion. We'll probably see that on the financial statements. Uh, if you know more about that, by all means, let me know in the comments. But I assume it's just basic things like Meta must be. I wouldn't say like selling the data, but yeah, I'm just not too sure about that one. But clearly, it's important. 1.3 billion. Uh, so yeah, if you know more about that, please let me know in the comments. But moving forward here, we also have the FTC. This Lena Khan has ignored ethics advice in a refusal to recuse herself in the Meta case. And the Meta case that they're referring to is Meta was attempting, and I believe it's gone through now, to buy a $400 million company called Within Unlimited to help with their virtual reality startup. Facebook, I believe they're $1 trillion company, and so a $400 million purchase, very small in comparison. Uh, but it looks like this FTC chair was trying to hold it up, and ultimately they just had to say, no, this is fine, and it's going through. We also have Meta has introduced a speech generation AI model called VoiceBox. This is going to be similar to a text to speech type of app, but the catch is you're going to be able to use your own voice. So, normally, how it's like a robotic type voice, this is going to be, you can make it sound just like you, which is kind of crazy to think about, but that's what's that one's about. Next, we also have Meta Platforms. Instagram rolls out a broadcast channel across the globe. This one, I guess I don't really understand it that much, but basically they're saying the little clip it here says it'll let creators broadcast to their followers on Instagram via a variety of different ways, including text, images, polls, and more. I mean, the way I was understanding it, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's just whenever someone posts something, they're going to be able to send it out on all socials. Is that's kind of how I'm understanding it. Uh, so yeah, if that's not correct, by all means let me know. But next we have the latest tech crackdown sees Facebook and Instagram pulled news in Canada. So this one's interesting, and I think it also affects Google, uh, and really just any platform that shares like media type stuff. But within Facebook and Instagram, apparently in Canada, there is this online news act that whenever you use a Canadian link to like a news station or something, uh, you're meant to distribute like a royalty type deal. You're meant to contribute uh, a certain portion of revenue for that ability of using that link. And so they're just like, well, we don't want to do that. So they're thinking of just removing the news, like adding a news link. I'm not sure how it's going to be done, but that's kind of the latest. Next, we have so Qualcomm. This is a company we follow. We'll be looking at them pretty soon. But Qualcomm is taking a bigger role in supplying Meta's AR projects. This is both AR and VR related items. So we'll look forward to see how much involved in terms of money. Next, we have WhatsApp Business. So that media like texting platform, it crossed the 200 million user mark. Uh, so congrats. That's pretty big. We want to see that continue to grow. Next, we have Meta launches a VR subscription offering at $8 per month. Uh, yeah, once we get the financials, which I believe are set to come out pretty soon, this week on the 26th. So I don't expect that to be a big impact on their earnings, but we'll keep an eye out for it, see just how that evolves. Next, we have Instagram launches this Twitter killer called Threads, this text app. We mentioned that earlier. Apparently, Threads, within a very short period, surpassed 70 million users, which was exceeding the expectations of Bank of America. And quickly after that, Twitter threatens to sue Meta for the Threads launch. So we'll actually see if it is that close. I haven't checked it out yet. So if you have, let me know how it's treating. Would you say it's that comparable? But so that's what's happening there. We also have Meta Platforms could have a $925 million tax bill from Italy. I'm not sure if this is going to go through. I'm leaning towards no, but essentially what they're saying is, and it's kind of small down here, but it says an internal audit claimed that Meta's user registration may have been a taxable event. So if you're signing up for Facebook, apparently, you could, it's viewed as a taxable event. Again, I don't think that one's going to go through, but that is the potential that it could be a $925 million tax on them. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Again, I'm leaning towards no, but let me know what you think. Next, we have Meta's mulling a launch of a commercial AI model. So this one seems promising. Basically, Meta had released its own LLM called Llama. And so currently, Llama was only available to researchers and academics, but now they have this new version that is meant to be available to the general public. Again, I'm not sure what kind of impact that'll have, especially right away. But of course, if we see updates, we will bring it up. Next, we have Meta is to fight the EU antitrust allegations in a Facebook Marketplace case. This is very similar to Amazon. Amazon, I think, is facing a similar accusation where, in Facebook's case, or Meta's case, Facebook has this sellers program called Marketplace, and basically what Facebook is being accused of is putting certain items ahead of others due to some sort of affiliation, I imagine, where maybe if you're a bigger Facebook user or spending more money, you might get a better spot. Um, Something along those lines. Uh, but next we have Threads also reached $100 million signups over the weekend, and this was back on July 14th, so not too long ago. It went from 70 million all the way up to 100, so it added 30 million users in uh, it looks like in 5 days. So very fast. I'm curious to know how many users Twitter has, because how close is it to that so quickly too? But of course, it's most of these people are probably just checking it out. No guarantee that they'll stay with the app, but we'll keep following it. Next, we have Meta Threads may bring 5% revenue upside as it grows to Twitter size. So it kind of leads into what I was saying earlier. So revenue, not so much potential, but again, I have to imagine it'll just depend on how many people continue to use it and how many ads can they put on there. Can they incorporate it into like a Facebook type model? And of course, the number of users are going to matter. The more users, the more chance for a higher revenue. But to start off with 5%, that's pretty good start. Next, we have Meta's mulling bringing branded content tools to Threads. So again, kind of leading into this deeper, how they could set up some sort of Facebook type system with the ads and uh, sponsored content. We'll see. But if it's even half as good as Facebook uh, or Instagram, this is just another good revenue stream for them in terms of ads. And then the last piece that we have here before we shift to the technicals is again that Qualcomm Meta announced a deal to bring LLMs to phones and PCs. So Meta is still using, or no, yeah, Meta is using Qualcomm now, and they're going to be using it for phones and PCs, those large language models. We'll see how that. We'll look into the details, especially when we get to Qualcomm, because that's most likely a huge deal for them. I realize Qualcomm is very big too, not as big as Meta, but we'll see the details of that probably when we get into Qualcomm. Yeah, let's now just take a look at the technical. So I'll share the tracker here in just a minute, but before I do, I just want to point out last time we looked at this was June 10th. So that was about right here at the end of the week, right at 264. Since then, it's really gone up, which is kind of expected. If we scale back out, it was in this uptrend, and it's still in that uptrend. We're going to push those trend lines out a little bit further as this continues on. But looking at the note, and here I'll share it now. So again, we were looking at it about a month and a half ago, trading at 264. We had buy points at 220, 254, with resistance at 282 and 343, noting the short-term uptrend since November, and to buy the dips on it. So we also, I'll point out that there's these two figures in here that are bold. Those were the points that I was more closely watching as opposed to the outside ones. So yeah, let's see what's kind of been going on. So if I just start with the buy points of 220, 220 is all the way back about here. It looks like we gave ourselves a little bit of cushion going out to like mid-July. Or no, that's not what it is. 220. How'd I get 220? Normally 220 is like a set figure. I guess either way, I mean, 220 is at that point. I would have thought I would have picked about 213 is that exact date. What I've done in other like checkpoints for companies like this is I'll go out a month, but when I go out a month for them, I would have put like 235, 230 So 220, I don't know if I just didn't update that, but yeah, let me just bring this out a little more so that we don't have to worry about that for a moment. So we'll bring that out. I'm trying to keep these uh, as parallel as possible. And then let me do this last one. Yeah, so right off the bat, I mean, the uptrend is still intact. It's definitely going faster, seeing as it's overachieving in this uptrend, which is normally a good thing. I mean, uh, it'd be different if it was on the underside. I guess the difference, if we kept seeing it climb up, but it was on the bottom half, we would just keep adding to this. Because it's on the top, it's like I'm wanting it to pull back because I do want to add to it, but because it's overpriced at the time, but it keeps going up. It's kind of an interesting spot to be in, and it leads to us not adding on to apparently what seems to be a good stock. It's just like I said, it's we'll just keep going through this one to see if something's changed, but I'm trying to make it parallel. I think that's good. I guess it's close enough. But let's set that back up. So I guess going back to the question here, so let's first update it. So it's currently at 294. Buy points for me. Oh, you know what it might have been? No, not even that. Okay, two. You know what? 220 is actually. I don't know what I was looking at before, but 220. I guess I would have put like 218, but okay, yeah, that's the bottom of the green trend line. Uh, so if I'm going to update that today, well, uh, the first point would be the bottom of the trend line, which is currently 242. However, like I said, I'm going to try to like project it out a little bit just because currently it's not at that point. I'm probably not going to get look back at this next week, but I might. So right now I'd be looking at 245, but again, I want to push this one out a little bit. So I would say like 262 would be a spot. So I'm going to update the 220 figure to 262. So that gives us the two buy points of 254 and 262. 262 is going to be my point of interest for buying this stock. In terms of resistance, looking at this, for now, we're going to keep in the 282. But again, that's not going to be a point of interest for us at this point because we've clearly passed it. Unless it pulls back in the next week below that point, I think it's kind of broken that, and it looks like it's going to continue heading upwards. But we'll leave it in for now. I'm also going to leave it 343 because, it struggled to get back above that point in the early days on the plummet down. So I imagine it might stall out there for a week to a month if it can get back to that point sometime soon. So I will leave that. And then we also, for a third point, what I'm going to do is if I was looking at it like next week because it's the weekend, next week the top of that range would be 294. And so just to project this one out a little bit, so to the about like mid-August is 312. So 312 would be kind of resistance right now. Again, just realizing that as this uptrend continues, the top of the ranges continues to build because again, right now, the top of the channel would be 294, but just each week, it's going to go from 294 to 300. Then it's at 304, and then ultimately we get to 312 in about a month's time. So I am going to put that in. And then in terms of like my top point of resistance, I'm most curious about uh, 343. So I'm going to make that bold. I'm going to update the date here. And then our note still checks out. So right now, at this point, I'm still going to kind of stay away from this. I wanted to pull back or maybe just take a break for a little bit, consolidate for a couple weeks. If I were to see that, like if I saw it pull back to say 282 and then just hang out there for a week or two, I would consider that probably means that is a new support period for us, and I might add at that point. Uh, but until I see something, I would prefer this one pull back until I add onto it. So that pretty much wraps this up. Um, so just a quick recap. I'm still keeping it red, so I'm going to stay away from purchasing this one right now. But it's currently at 294. Buy points for this one are 254 and 262. 262 is my preferred buy point right now. Resistance points at 282, 312, and 343. So the fact that we went above one of those resistance points and we're kind of in the middle between two, we'll kind of see how it plays out, if it wants to kind of slow down a little bit or not. But the point that's most intriguing at this point would be 343, where it's been rejected a couple times. I want to see how it reacts when it gets to that point. But overall, the note, that's staying in place. That short-term uptrend since November of 22, that's still active. And if it were to take a dip, yeah, I would pick this up as that uptrend continues. So if you have any questions about something I went over, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer it. Or if you just want to add any insights to any of the articles we went over, if you know a little bit more that maybe I missed, feel free to add that. I'd be happy to read it. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.